I had a lot of time to think about it, and the more that I did, the more I realized or thought that maybe it was my phone call to Robbie that made him change his mind about Jamie. You know, there's this phenomenon where when you see that somebody else wants something, it makes that thing more attractive to you, even if you didn't really want it in the first place. And I've spent all week trying to find a good, solid, profound quote about just that I could open this episode with, and I wasn't able to. I couldn't. I did find a very profound quote, though, from Karl Kraus. He said, "Jealousy is the dog's bark which attracts thieves." Think about that for a little while. Or a really long while, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
For this #LovePodcast presentation, names, voices, and faces have been changed, but the story is true. This is the tale of Paul and Jamie, Part 2. We pick up this chronicle in the year 2001, at the start of the spring semester at Moore Park College.
Well, after that disastrous Robbie-Jamie winter break, she was pretty much out of sight, out of mind. We did not end up in the same acting class that next semester, and knowing how I felt about her, Robbie was not going to be like, "Oh yeah, go have lunch with Paul, that'll be cool." So really the only times I would see her was if I was doing something around the theater building and she was coming or going from class and our paths crossed. And that was really totally fine because I was very busy myself. I had just found out in January that I got accepted to UCLA to transfer into their theater program in the fall, so I had to keep my grades up. And I was busy doing shows. I believe I did 3 plays that spring semester, so my plate was full enough.
One day, Paul was surprised to receive an invitation to an important event.
Towards the end of the semester, I bumped into her in the hallway, and she mentioned that she was going to be singing a song at her high school graduation, and would I like to come and be her guest? And I thought that was really cool, because, I mean, who do you invite to your high school graduation? Not just anybody, your closest friends and your family, right? So I told her I'd be there, and she told me when it was going to be, and I should meet up with her family at her parents' house beforehand.
All I remember is that I was in my cap and gown and it was yellow, and yellow is not a good color on me, so I was upset. And this was when flat irons were big, so I had flat ironed my hair, and I was like, guys, I'm kind of a big deal because my hair is flat ironed, and not everybody has a flat iron, so there you go.
I'll never forget it because it was the first time that I turned down her street and pulled up to her house and went in. I met her parents, and it was pretty surreal. It was kind of out of the blue, and there I was. And then the awkwardness level just bumped up 10 times when Robbie walked in.
So that was kind of an awkward reunion because, you know, Paul and Rob, kindergarten craziness, they know each other. And then my parents are like, "Oh, hey, there's 2 boys here, and there's Jamie, and what's going on here?" And it was just a gong show.
There I am standing in Jamie's living room with Robbie and Jamie's parents, and we're all trying to make small talk.
And Paul was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Like, we're talking blue, yellow, white. It's a whole pattern. Rob is standing there in his polo shirt.
Eventually, Robbie patted me on the back and said,
"Don't worry, buddy. You can ride with me. That way, it won't be weird."
So I rode with him to the high school, and we were standing together on the field level for the graduation ceremony, and Jamie sang a song. It was "I Hope You Dance" by Leanne Womack. And there's this one lyric, one part in the song which is, "I hope that love never leaves you empty-handed." And when she sang that line, she looked over to where Robbie and I were. "I hope that love may never leave you empty-handed." And I couldn't tell if she was looking at me or him. I didn't know what was going on. It was all so awkward, and I wanted so much to just be her boyfriend in that moment that I had to go. I had to go, you guys. So I waited. I watched her get her diploma, and everybody threw their hats up in the air, and then I just left. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just left. I walked back to her house. It was only like a mile, but got in my car and I left. And she never called me, and I did not hear from her again for a really long time.
Those stoic hands of time ticked on. In a blink, the summer had passed, and Paul moved away to university.
Once he went to UCLA, I didn't hear from him for like at least 6 months, and one day I just thought, I think I'll call Paul and see what he's up to. And Robert definitely would not approve of me calling Paul, so I called him while I was at school. So I took a break from, I think it was acting class or dance class or something, and I walked outside and I sat on the curb.
I had just finished my last class from the day, and I was walking down Bruin Walk, and I remember I was right next to that big bear statue, and my phone rang. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have arrived. I have a cell phone. That's right. It was one of those little blocky Nokia phones, but I take it out of my pocket and I look at it, and it's Jamie.
He answered. I was so excited, and I was like, hey, it's Jamie. I'm just calling to see what you're up to, and just awkward chit-chat, you know. I don't really remember what we talked about, but I just liked hearing his voice.
It just struck me as odd, because here we hadn't talked since her graduation, and now she's just calling me out of the blue for small talk. Of course, we're friends, but do friends do that? I guess they do. I don't know. In my mind, I was thinking maybe that's just her way of staying in my mind.
Later on, in the winter, Jamie and Robbie's one-year dating anniversary was drawing nigh. Jamie was working as a barista, and one day she received startling information from some coffee-craving customers.
I was working at Starbucks. I was working the night shift. I hadn't seen Robbie in a couple days, just because he was busy with school, so he told me. I was just steaming up a little latte, putting on some whipped cream, when these 3 girls come in, and they all are wearing CLU sweatshirts. Messy little buns, you know, college girls. They walk in laughing. So they get in line and they're like,
I want a frappuccino.
I want a mochaccino.
actually, a mochaccino is not an actual drink.
Okay, I want a mocha latte.
And one of them goes,
Oh my gosh, are you Robbie's ex-girlfriend?
I'm Robbie's girlfriend. And they all look at each other like, we're all confused.
What?
And then one girl goes,
Guys,
she starts whispering. And I was like, what is going on here? And they get all awkward and they're like,
well, we thought that you guys aren't together anymore, because he's with Chrissy.
I'm sorry, who is Chrissy? Everybody clams up. They decide they don't want a coffee. They leave. So I leave. I get in my car, drive over to his dorm. I don't call him. He does not know I'm coming. I take off my apron. I'm still smelling like coffee. I'm just super, super mad because I don't know what is going on, but I know it's not good. I walk into his dorm. The door was open, by the way. The front door was open. Nobody was in there. I walk into his bedroom and I see that all the pictures of us have been taken off the wall. They're now in a pile in a corner. All of my favorite pictures of us taken off the wall, replaced with pictures of him and this blonde bimbo. Never seen her before, but I'm assuming this is Chrissy. I had the rage. So I'm standing in the middle of his room, just fuming, like this is not really happening. And then the other favorite part is I had told him that I wanted this particular necklace from Benbridge. He knew I wanted it, and he didn't get it for me for my birthday. And he was like, I'll get it for you for our anniversary. And I look at one of these pictures with him and Chrissy, and what does she have around her neck? The necklace that I wanted from Benbridge. I was freaking out. Then I go into this briefcase. I find all these love notes. Oh, Robbie, I love you so much. I can't wait to spend another weekend with you, blah, blah, blah. As I'm reading these love notes, I hear something behind me. Turn around, there's Robbie standing in the doorway. No shirt on, you guys. No shirt. Boxers. Well, they're not boxers. They're like basketball shorts. And a winter coat. I just want you guys to picture that for a moment. No shirt, winter coat, basketball shorts. Something tells me he wasn't at Bond's. And I'm like, where have you been? And he looks at me like, oh my God. He doesn't say anything, and I just stare at him. He turns bright red, and he's like,
I don't understand what you're doing here. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me you were coming over?
And I look at the wall, and I was like, so you took down my pictures? And then he starts crying.
I'm so sorry, oh man. I'm such a piece of crap. I don't deserve you. This is terrible. I can't believe this is happening.
And I don't think I said
I'm so sorry. Please.
anything for like at least half an hour. I just listened to him cry and say I'm sorry and give me these excuses. And finally I was like, well, we're done and I'm leaving. And then he tried to give me a hug and I was like, don't touch me. I said, you know, I have wonderful memories with you and I really love you and my heart is broken right now. So I just gotta go. And I walked out and I remember seeing him looking at me like, oh, you're not really leaving. And as I walked out, I ran into his roommate and his roommate was like, so you finally found out, huh? And I'm like, oh, well, thanks for telling me. I left and I don't really think I ever spent any time with him after that. Very sad.
"2002 brought changes Paul's way as well."
In January of 2002, I took an extended leave of absence from UCLA and moved back home. Long story short, theater degrees don't help you get cast in film and television. And I was home, I was settling in, I was starting on this new path where I was trying to get an agent, taking commercial workshops, and looking for a job, when I heard that Moorpark College was doing West Side Story, and auditions were the following week. And I thought, West Side Story, that has Jamie written all over it. And how cool would it be to be in a show like that with her? So I was really tempted to go audition, but at the same time, going back to Moorpark and doing shows there really wasn't in line with the whole reason I'd left the university. And of course, as far as I knew, Jamie and Robbie were still living happily ever after, so the decision not to go to the audition was pretty much a no-brainer.
I found out that Moorpark College was going to be putting West Side Story on through a friend of mine, and I said, I have got to be in this show. One of my dream roles was Maria in West Side Story, so of course I auditioned for it, and the audition was divided into 3 days. The first day was singing, second day was dancing, third day was reading the scenes. So everything goes well. I show up for the third day in the Black Box Theater for the scene read, and I get the sides for Maria, and they randomly pair you up with people to read with. So I got paired with this guy, Devin Delano. He was going to be reading Tony. And we shake hands, and he's like 6'4", dark hair, kind of looks like Ricky Martin. Nice guy. And we read over the scene, and in the scene, we see that Tony and Maria kiss. And so he looks at it, and he gets kind of awkward, and he's like,
So, do you want to, kiss?
Well, looks like that's what they do in the script, so yeah, that's fine. I'm not weird with it.
Because I don't want to offend you.
I'm not offended. I'm an actress. Well, it's fine. And so the time comes when he's supposed to kiss me, and it was a little bit awkward. We kissed. Long story short, I got the part. He got cast, but not in that part. He got cast as my brother. Weird. And I never really thought about him again until rehearsal started. I wasn't really looking for a boyfriend or anything, so I was not interested in Devin. Wasn't thinking about it at all. But he was like kind of flirty with me and would always like come over and talk to me and everything. Rehearsals went for 3 or 4 months. And one day he said,
We should go for coffee.
So months go by, and I'm making progress. I've got an agent. I am going out for film and commercial auditions for the first time ever. Really cool. And West Side Story comes around. I show up at the theater, and I didn't know, but I guess every performance was sold out way ahead of time. So I got creative, and I went out back behind the theater and went to my car. I got a cardboard box and ripped off, just like scalpers by the ballpark when you go to games, I ripped off a side panel of the box and wrote, "I need a ticket," and stood in the lobby of the theater with this sign.
In the lobby of the theater, Paul happened to come face to face with a familiar face.
My buddy Devin comes out, and I see him. I haven't seen him in a while, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And we catch up for a minute, and then he tells me,
Hey, buddy, there's a cast party after the show tonight. You gotta come. We gotta hang out. I miss you.
and so I said, "Cool, great, I'll be there." He told me where and when, and so I said, break a leg, can't wait to see the show. So he went backstage, and then some very nice person sold me a ticket, so I was all set, and I was sitting in the lobby waiting to go in, and I heard her.
Paul?
I turn and I look, and there she is, Jamie. I haven't seen her in how long, I don't know, but I give her a big hug. I ask her how she's doing. I ask about Robbie, and she gets all emotional, and she says, "Do you have a minute to talk?" We found a quiet corner in a hallway backstage, and we sat on the floor, and she told me all about how she found out a couple months before that Robbie had been cheating on her, and for a while, I felt terrible. I felt really bad, A, for her, and B, because, I don't know, I can't explain it, but because a friend of mine from growing up did that to her, and I cared about her so much, and I felt terrible. So I try to be very supportive, and she's running out of time, so she's got to go finish getting ready for the show. So we say, "Okay, great." I tell her break a leg and everything, and she starts to tell me about the cast party afterwards, and I'm like, no, I know. Sitting in this theater, watching this performance, I was cloud nine. And it sounds wrong because of the circumstances of the Robbie breakup, but she's single now. And I'm in town, and I'm enjoying this. She killed it as Maria, so good. And she's on stage singing songs like "There's a Place for Us" and "One Hand, One Heart." I'm sure I had a grin from ear to ear the whole performance. I was so excited. And there's gonna be a cast party tonight. We get to hang out. Are you kidding me? This couldn't be more perfect.
But at the party, Paul happened to come face to face with a familiar feeling.
I show up, I say hi to some old friends, I go to the kitchen and get a beer, and when I'm in the kitchen, I kind of look over the minibar into the living room, and I see like a glimpse of Jamie. And so I kind of start to head over towards her. I go around the corner, and then just like it's shot in slow motion in a movie, people part, and I get the wider picture. Jamie is standing there, yes, but standing right next to her with his arm around her is my friend Devin. And my heart sank, and I just went, "Oh my gosh, not again." Really? Swooped again. And so I'm standing there, stopped dead in my tracks, and I'm looking at this, and Jamie and Devin are smiling. They're chatting with some other friends, but they're clearly there together. And I can't believe it. And a buddy of mine, a pretty close friend of mine, Todd Wilbert, he comes over, and he's one of the very few of my friends that knows about my feelings for Jamie and the whole history with Robbie and everything. And he says to me,
"Hey, listen, this kind of just happened, right? They're still brand new. It can't be that serious. Maybe you still have a chance."
but I know. There's no competing with Devin. Devin and I had been friends since I started going to Moore Park, and I knew he was a bit of a player. And by that I mean, like, he was taking different girls out all the time. He came from a wealthy family. And not only that, but he was a good guy. And he was tall, dark, and handsome. He was funny. He was confident. There was no way to me that he and Jamie together made any sense. None. But at the same time, I knew that I could not. There was no competing with that.
Here's the thing with Devin. I'm kind of like swept off my feet. I'm 18 years old. This guy is tall, dark, and handsome. And he takes me out to like the nicest restaurants ever. So totally fall for him. By the end of the run, we were a couple.
Well, as they do, the ever-steady hands of time marched along. That summer, the theater brought Paul and Jamie together once again.
Later on, when the summer started, I had been talking to my agent, and I hadn't done a show on stage for at least a year. And so my agent said, yeah, maybe it would be a good idea for you to do a show. And Moore Park was starting their summer theater program. They were putting on 2 shows.
I was doing a play in the Black Box Theater, and Paul was also doing a show. His was called Closer. Mine was called Rhymers of the Eldrick. And we were not in the same show, but both of our shows were taking place in the same theater space at different times, if that makes sense.
How about some extra credit?
At one point, the teacher, the guy who was running the theater program that was directing both shows,
said, "You guys need to see this show, King Lear. It's playing at the brewery in LA.
I will give you tons of extra credit if you go see the show."
So I was like, all right, I want to go see King Lear. I'm all about it. Paul wanted to go see King Lear. We're still friends.
So I said, okay, when can I pick you up?
So I went with Paul. He picked me up in his green Eclipse. I loved that car. And he drove me to see King Lear at the brewery. You can actually see it if you're driving on the 5. And I wanted to know what was going on with Paul, so I started asking him, like, so are you seeing anyone? What's going on? And he started talking about this girl named Meg. And I was like, who's Meg? Meg? I've never heard of Meg.
My buddy Danny and I had been working on a CD. It was this, just he and I, 2 acoustic guitars, and I had gone out on a couple of dates with this girl named Meg. And my dates with her kind of inspired me to write this one song, which we had recorded.
So here we are on the 5 freeway, and he starts playing me this song that he wrote for Meg. And I was like inexplicably jealous of this girl that I've never heard of, never known. I'm not even with Paul, but I'm jealous of this phantom girl, Meg. And I'm like, well, why is she so great? Tell me, was she a princess or something? What's going on? And I remember thinking, where are these feelings coming from? I don't know. Whatever, let's just go see the show. But just one kiss from you tonight would last a lifetime. So we go see King Lear. Everything is fine. It was a great night.
It was just such a fun night with her. You know, we had never had some kind of experience like this where we went out somewhere together. We were there sharing our evening, experiencing this show. And it was intermission, and we were standing outside between this building and the freeway. They had this area set up for people to mill about during intermission, and they had a concessions table set up over there, and Jamie was like,
I'm gonna go get something. You want anything?
and I said, maybe a coffee, and so she said,
Okay.
And she went over to the concessions table, and when she came back, she had a coffee for me, and I think she had a hot chocolate, and a big chocolate chip cookie. And without asking, without offering, she broke the cookie in half and handed me half of it. And it sounds so silly, but in that moment, when she held out this half of a chocolate chip cookie. I looked at her and I realized I was in love with this girl. And it was bittersweet because I knew I couldn't have her. But at the same time, I was just thankful that she was in my life. We had this great time at the show, and
We drove home. He dropped me off.
I watched her walk up the drive and go into her house, and she waved and shut the door. And on the drive home, I realized that this romantic connection that we had could just be all in my head. I started to run back in my head, from the minute I met her, every experience we shared till now. And she had never given me any kind of reason that I can think of to think that she was romantically interested in me. I was her friend. But I had fallen for her a long time ago, and I think that alters your judgment and you see things differently. And I realized this driving home after I dropped her off. I was like, wow, I'm just her friend, you guys. And that's when I was finally able to kind of let her go. She was brought into my life, and I fell in love with her. And even though we wouldn't be together, I had experienced that. And maybe that was all that I was supposed to do. So I told myself, you gotta turn the page. You gotta take this for what it was, learn from it. Don't let it frustrate you. Don't let it hurt you anymore. Just let it go. And I did. And when I did, I felt like a big weight lifted off my shoulders. I was ready to move on. And it felt good.
But little did Paul know, tomorrow would bring him a new romance, one that might change his life forever. That's right, folks. This memoir will be continued. #Love, the tale of Paul and Jamie Part 2 was produced by Shovel Kitty Media and featured the vocal talents of Rowena Villanueva, Jenna Valdez, Lauren Murada, Caroline Esparza, Annalisa Hubbard, Chris Villan, Eddie Kay, and Michael Pettingale. With interviews from Paul and Jamie. I'm Morgan Freeman, as played by Tyler Cole.
Jealousy is the dog's bark which attracts thieves. Seriously, if you have a good interpretation of this, please share it on our Facebook page.
Review #Love on iTunes, and I'll read your name in the credits of a future episode. Join the ranks of Jason Morton, Amber Lozano, Krista Bibby, and Amber Rita. Thank you for sharing the love. Good night. Wait, no, I had it. Hold on. This one's for you, Paul. If I didn't love you so much, I would have ran you over years ago. And I had the opportunity.